Well, I told you we were not missing a single day of live streaming until the season starts. I mean, even during the year, I'm going to be streaming every single day, probably for like 200, 250 days in a row. Well, this is proof. We're going to the lake in approximately, I don't know, very soon. So we're up at 5:50-ish in the morning to go ahead and get y'all an Underdog best ball draft. Let's hop into this room. Let's see if there are any sickos that want to be out here drafting with us. And oh, dear God, ladies and gentlemen, we may be waiting around just for a bit here. I mean, there are 9 spots open in this draft. I don't know how many sickos are going to be wanting to draft with us at 5:58 in the morning. But actually, I guess maybe it's filling. We have 3 spots open, 2 spots open for everybody wanted to come out. Thank you so much, everybody. Really, it's crazy. Crazy that y'all are out here with us. Thank you so much, everybody. Really, really appreciate you. I saw a couple people in the chat saying they're from like Europe or Australia or like Asia, and they're saying, oh yeah, no, it's normal for us here. It's normal. Kevin says, I have 3 kids under 3. You don't know tired. That is, I am definitely a spoiled little princess. I'll tell you that much. I mean, I usually get my 8-9 hours of sleep every single night. So it's, for the veterans of the game, I'm sure that I am just a little chump. For me, it's still pretty difficult. But here we are. Pick 8 will make it work. I don't like pick 8. I mean, generally, if we're in the middle of round, the middle of round 1, we have a bad team. And nonetheless, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Eduardo says, wow, thought this was some kind of YouTube glitch. Glad I'm up this late. My man, go to bed. What are we doing here? Now, real quick side note, just in case you are new here, just in case you want to make sure you are not missing these drafts, which we do every single day, and I'm not going to miss a day. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Link in the live chat, link in the description, link in the comment section. This is Best Ball Mania. This is their largest best ball tournament. It is a $25 buy-in, $15 million prize pool. $3 million for first place, $1 million for second place, some crazy regular season prizes as well. Since it's best ball, there's no time commitment at all during the year. It's how I drafted 700 teams and won $150,000 last year. Real quick side note, they actually just dropped their pick'em. Here, you actually have some rivals lines. I mean, we made a video about this. I'll come out soon. I mean, I'm taking the Jamar Chase plus 25 receiving yards in comparison to Devontae Adams. Really like that line. They also just have straight up higher, lower fantasy football lines as well for the season. So it's all the same place, all on Underdog. We are going to go ahead, pull up our pick to draft. We will take A.J. Brown here. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2023 fantasy football rankings, as well as a free trial to flockfantasy.com with promo code FLOCK. Oh, dear God. We made it through. We made it through. Cody says, 1.5 finally in a draft with you. My man, thank you for joining us. Seeing you take Stephon Diggs here. Pick 5. And happy to see how your team looks through this. Rick says, pick 2. First with you this season. Thank you, my man, for coming out and draft with us so damn early. Maybe this is something we should do more often. Not necessarily the 5 in the morning live streams, 6 in the morning live streams. Maybe instead we should just mix up the times. Usually we're at like 6 p.m. Central every day. But I guess, yeah, if we're streaming at the same time every day, if people have real jobs and they can't join the live stream at that time, or maybe they have families and they can't join the live stream at that time, maybe we mix it up to give everybody a decent shot to get in with us. Cito says, you need some coffee / espresso ASAP. You're right. Hopefully the girlfriend's waking up soon before. So the reason we're up this early, I'll explain in a second. But yeah, we're going to take a wide receiver. I mean, I think Saquon Barkley is a better option than the wide receivers here. But if you're looking at these drafts, Amon-Ra St. Brown, ADP 13.8. Saquon Barkley, ADP 18.6. So I have already drafted the hell out of Saquon Barkley. I mean, we've drafted over 200 teams already on Underdog, and I have so much Saquon Barkley and not much Amon-Ra St. Brown, because you can get Barkley in the late second. Amon-Ra St. Brown's been sneaking into the late first. So, yeah, we'll have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown at the gate. Plus, we get 2 Browns, right? I mean, hell. Okay. Now, yeah, so the reason we are up this early is we're going to the lake at 7 in the morning. We'll be there today, be there most of the day tomorrow. It's a little bit of a road trip to get there, a little bit of a road trip to get back. So we are going to live stream super early on Saturday morning and super late Sunday night. That way we don't miss a day of live streaming. We can't ruin our streak. We've streamed every single day since April. It's almost July. Okay, so after we take St. Brown, we have Barkley, Olave, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins all off the board. Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson. One of the first drafts I've seen Ramondre go in the second round. Yeah, so here we have Rick in here with the full-blown Ramondre love. Love to see it, my friend. Love to see it. One says, do you like any of the Seattle props on Underdog? I watch every game, so I'm going to need at least one player in my entry. Okay, let's go ahead and let's look at the Seattle lines. Oh, actually, there was one that I liked. It was the Jackson Smith and Jigba line. Okay, so here with JSN, they have him at 4.5 receiving touchdowns, 725 receiving yards. I am fine if you want to take a more than on a Seattle guy, if it is that. If we compare, Tyler Lockett's at 825, DK Metcalf's at 950. My favorite line definitely between the Seattle Seahawks players is going to be the Jackson Smith and Jigba one. But in general, I'm actually trying to take as many lower thans as I can on those underdog lines if they're season-long props. Just because, I mean, if a player misses a month, it's going to be very hard for them to hit their season-long projection. Okay, Metcalf goes. This team's taking Eckler, Barkley at the gate. So, yeah, you'd assume that they wouldn't take running back, and they're going to allow us to grab Breece Hall here at pick 32. So, I'm excited about it. One other line that I actually like right now on Underdog, I think we showed this off on the live stream last night, but I like the Breece Hall versus Isaiah Pacheco rushing touchdowns. Pacheco's getting the plus half a rushing touchdown, but still, I feel like the gap should be a little bit wider than that. So let's go ahead and let's move this back over. Lamar Jackson goes directly after we take Breece Hall. Where did Andrews go? Okay, Andrews goes over there at the beginning of round 3. Okay. Jesse says, I take Breece Hall late third so much. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're in like a casual redraft league, maybe you're not super excited to take Breece Hall here. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in Best Ball Mania, we're trying to draft for weeks 15, 16, 17 and have the highest freaking ceiling possible for the fantasy football playoff tournament. If we want a shot at like the 3 million, the million, all those prizes. So it makes sense to try to take a player that has an elite level ceiling for that stretch, and Hall will. So I don't know. Okay, let's move this over. Gibbs goes 38. Keenan goes 39. The attack of Jack goes Jerry Jeudy. So we'll take Najee Harris here. So this is a big reason why we take like Amon-Ra St. Brown over Saquon Barkley. This is a big reason why we take A.J. Brown over Travis Kelce. So we give ourselves the flexibility of being able to take the running backs here in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6 that we like as strong values. We'll reach on the wide receivers a bit earlier in the draft, but here I really want to make sure that we're taking advantage of what I perceive to be some of the best values in the draft, which are these running backs that are in the quote-unquote dead zone. I don't think it's true. I think these running backs are guys that generally would have been going in the late second round in drafts in previous years before like ADP just went completely whack. Okay. Lunar likes the start. Ethan says the draft has a great start as well. And Sumo Bro says Tony versus Higgins receiving touchdowns. This is something that I actually made the mistake with. Okay, so let me point this out. I'm sorry. We'll be real quick with this. But I recorded a video right before this looking at these lines, and this is probably the best line, is taking T. Higgins minus half a receiving touchdown versus Kadarius Toney. Doesn't even seem fair. I honestly may need to update that video. We may need to fix that, to be honest. Ryan says, you're not worried about Dalvin going to the Jets? I am not. Okay. Digby Dingus says, can you explain real quick how you progress to the playoffs at the end of the year? Like, you got to be the best of your 12-team draft to win. Generally, it's going to be dependent on the underdog tournament that you were in with the different thresholds of advancement. So in an underdog draft, what's going to happen is weeks 1 through 14 will be the regular season, and we are going up against the other 11 people in this league. The two highest scorers, weeks 1 through 14, I mean, sometimes it'll only be the one highest scorer. Sometimes it'll be the 4 highest scores. It's going to be dependent on the tournament that you're in. They are going to advance to the fantasy football playoffs. Then you're going to have a pool of all those teams that advanced together in round 15. Now, it's going to depend on the underdog tournament that you are in. If it's a super large field tournament, you may be in a pool up to like 16 teams. If it is a smaller field tournament, you may be in a pool down there at like 6 teams. It's just going to depend on the tournament. And then also, depending on the tournament, you will advance X amount of teams in that pool. So sometimes it will be 2 teams in the pool. Sometimes it will be 3 teams, the highest scoring team in week 15. And then you do that same thing in week 16. And then in week 17 is the championship round. That's why we talk about it being so damn important to try to find guys that have upside for weeks 15, 16, 17, because that's when you're going to need points the most. Okay. Now, Aaron Jones goes 53. Godwin off the board, 54. Bro, 10 picks past 80. F it. Let's try to make it work. Whenever Best Ball Mania opened, Joe Burrow was actually going like at the 3-4 turn for a lot of these drafts. Obviously, when you take Burrow, you'd much prefer having Jamar Chase, having T. Higgins. You're seeing Joe Burrow fall pretty far in some of these drafts because what happens a lot is the same thing that happened in this one, where the Jamar Chase team takes an elite level quarterback with Jalen Hurts, where the T. Higgins team takes an elite level quarterback with Josh Allen, allowing Joe Burrow to fall because nobody really has any stacking options. Now, when you take Burrow here, you pretty much commit to the fact that you will be targeting Tyler Boyd later on. You will be targeting Irv Smith Jr. later on. I had a draft that I did off the live stream, I want to say 2 to 3 days ago, where we took an unstacked Joe Burrow like late round 5, and we made it work. We got both guys. I mean, we did have to reach maybe a little bit for Tyler Boyd, but we did get him, and it wasn't like a horrible value for either player. So, yeah, we'll make it work. Okay. Digby Dingus says, okay, thanks for the new info. I mean, the info new this year to Underdog. Use code FLOCK. I know. Thank you so much, my man, for supporting the channel. There's no better way to support the channel than signing up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK. Thank you so much. And of course, if you are not already on Underdog and you want to go ahead and hop into some of these best ball drafts, this is Underdog Fantasy. It's not too late for you to still get in. These are best ball drafts, so no time commitment at all during the season. I drafted over 700 teams and won $150,000 last year. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you'll get my 2023 fantasy football rankings, as well as a free trial to flockfantasy.com. Plus, this is where you have all the player props that we were showing earlier. So not only do you have these massive best ball tournaments, I mean, the biggest tournaments in the world, but at the same time, you have a bunch of cool player props if you like player props. Okay. Now we have Deontay Sanders and then Lawrence. Carrison coming out saying, I know you mentioned your opposition to week 17 correlation, but it's essentially the same as stacking. No, I completely understand what week 17 correlation is and why it's advantageous in DFS tournaments to have your bring back, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I understand the reasoning that people go ahead and do it. I just think that the level of importance that people give to it is way out of whack. I think getting in week 17 correlation should be about 5 to 10% of your decision making there, where in reality, creating well-correlated teams that fit a certain roster construction with ADP value, that is going to be by far and away the most important thing to focus in on. I think if everybody can nail those 3 things, they'll be much better off than trying to focus in on week 17 correlation. Okay. Tommy says, I hate the 12 spot. This is where I just draft dudes I love. That's the one fun part about it. My roster may not be ideal, but freaking love the team as a fan. Okay, let's go ahead and let's check out Team 12 here for Tommy. Okay, he goes through, takes Taylor Chubb out the gate. So definitely going to be a unique build when Chubb, Taylor almost exclusively go round 2. Christian Watson, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, George Pickens. One thing that you get the advantage with if you're picking at the turn, whether that's the 101, whether that's the 112, is you are set up in a spot where you can get very unique from the rest of the field. If you wanted to, I mean, you can go through and build a team that pretty much nobody has built before. I think that's kind of what this is, right? Okay, let's move this down. B. Ryan says, correlation won't you do any good if you don't make it a week 17. Yeah, what's funny is a lot of people pushing week 17 correlation. A lot of people saying that that's the thing that matters, and I'm an idiot because I'm focused. They've never made it to a week 17. I mean, last year we were in like 7 tournaments in the final week 17 week. Okay, I thought Quentin Johnson already went. Who did this team take if they didn't take Quentin Johnson? They took Deontay Johnson. Okay, I'm an idiot. I thought they reached on Quentin Johnson to pair him up with Justin Herbert, and I was thinking, oh, it's a little early to be taking the stack. You could probably get the guy around round 7, but yeah, clearly he didn't. Clearly, I just can't read. It goes Waller, so we're going to take DeAndre Swift. I mean, it was Swift who really was advocating to actually stay away from him when these contests opened up. But, I mean, hell, back then he was going into round 6. If we're going to get him closer to than around 7 now, I mean, I'll be fine taking DeAndre Swift. I mean, it's like Quentin Johnson, Swift. You can kind of go back and forth here. Okay, so wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett. Running back, we have Breece Hall, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift. Quarterback, we have Joe Burrow, and definitely will be needing to target the combination of both Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith Jr. later on since we have Burrow here. Digby Dingus says, it's going to be cool to see your reaction to reviewing your winning team draft last year. Yeah, I've honestly haven't watched the live stream for that purpose. I want like my reaction to actually be my reaction. Okay, so let's swing this around. Okay, so you have some really early tight ends going here. I mean, Pat Fried, David Njoku going way earlier than ADP. I think we had a draft yesterday where we got David Njoku at pick 114. Okay. The attack of Jack on the clock goes James Conner. We'll take Dalvin Cook. I mean, Dalvin Cook in a lot of these underdog drafts, I mean, was going around 6. So definitely getting a unique build compared to the rest of the field, as well as a player that has some upside, right? I mean, Dalvin Cook could be straight up nothing this next season. Not going to lie to you. Dalvin Cook could be trash, and this could be a horrendous selection. But you never know. Maybe, just maybe, Dalvin Cook finds himself in a great spot. Maybe, just maybe, Dalvin Cook goes to Miami. Dalvin Cook goes to Kansas City. Dalvin Cook goes to Buffalo. And all of a sudden, we see Dalvin Cook back in round 6, and we're going to be one of the only teams that gets him in the middle of round 8. You never know. But obviously, when we're drafting in a tournament that's a $25 buy-in and $3 million for first place, we're trying to take the highest ceiling possible. And I think Dalvin Cook does present us with a higher ceiling than someone like Elijah Moore. Okay. Jesse says, this is the part of the draft where we don't take a wide receiver for 5 rounds. Usually it is. Usually this is part of the draft where we're not taking a wide receiver and instead we're slamming in running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends. But since we take an unstacked Burrow here at 56, we are going to have to target Tyler Boyd on the way back around. Okay. So Jameson goes 95. AJ says, I have the 101 in a dynasty league coming up in a few days. I go Jefferson, right? Yeah, so if it's a 1 quarterback format, you go Jefferson. If it's a super flex league, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take Mahomes. Okay, Javonte, pick 97. Karasoon says, do you use a rule of thumb of 4 wide receivers before round 8? Generally, I think you can go ahead and steer clear of making any hard rules for you, because if you have some hard rules for you in your underdog draft, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually build a unique team. But if you were going to make one, I don't think that's a bad rule at all. Noah out here, super happy to see you, my man. Thank you so much for stopping by. You know, I appreciate you. Okay. Let's see. 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 Manu says, what's up with the boy target? Why do you need him? So essentially, if we're going to be looking at like some massive spike weeks, right, where we're going to be in rounds 15, 16, 17, when we take Burrow there in round 5, we need to assume that the Cincinnati Bengals have a week where they just blow the hell up, where Joe Burrow has 3+ passing touchdowns, 300+ passing yards. And if that happens for this team to be good, what also needs to happen is you would assume one of the Cincinnati Bengals pass catchers also has a phenomenal week as well, right? So if we're already relying on that explosion from Joe Burrow, you can kind of like double down on it by taking Tyler Boyd here at 103. And that's a big way that it's an easy way for us to explain like stacking and why you want to do it is you're essentially doubling down on a bet that you previously made. So if I draft Joe Burrow in round 5, if this team wants to be the team that has any shot of winning, say, I don't know, $3 million, Joe Burrow probably needs to be a good pick in round 5. And if Joe Burrow's a good pick in round 5, that means most likely the Cincinnati Bengals pass catchers, at least a few of them, will be strong values as well. So usually teams that have Higgins, teams that have Chase, are the teams that draft Joe Burrow at the end of the 4th, the beginning of the 5th. We take Burrow in the middle to the end of the 5th round. So we're going to pair him up with Tyler Boyd. And yeah, I don't necessarily know if there are going to be a lot of teams that look like this. So I'm pretty excited. One says, thoughts on the Mac Jones under props could possibly have some competition with Zappy if he struggles again. Okay, let me pull up what you have with Mac Jones here. Don't care about the golf props. Let's look. 3,200 yards. I mean, it's pretty low, right? It's lower than CJ Stroud. I'm staying away. It's really up to you, my friend. I'll definitely say on those season-long props, generally I'm only going to be looking for the less than mark, just in case anything random does happen that you don't predict. Let's move this back over. Brian Robinson goes off the board 109. Samaje Perine goes as well. So if we're looking at quarterbacks that are in play for us, Geno Smith is in play. I mean, we took Tyler Lockett. If we really wanted to, we could grab Geno Smith here. Go Vikes on the clock. They take Geno Smith. I should have just kept my mouth shut. The Tago Jack on the clock now. Jeep Guy says, have a good weekend at the Lake Mason. 5 a.m. here, so going back to sleep. Thank you for stopping by, my man. Thank you. We'll take Juju Smith-Schuster. So Juju's ADP has kind of been plummeting with the rumors of DeAndre Hopkins going to New England, which is a very real possibility, right? I can't sit here and say, oh, no, trust me, guys. DeAndre Hopkins is my best friend. I talked to him. He's not going to the Patriots. In reality, I have no idea. But there's a chance Hopkins doesn't go to New England, right? And if we're getting Juju after someone like Sky Moore, I don't know, kind of like it. Big Route says, Underdog needs a 4 a.m. drafter badge. Oh, yes, that's what we need. That's what we need. See where the real D-gens are. Chrome says, some major discrepancies between the NFL season rivals on Underdog and the lines in some other sports books. Any other favorites besides the Breece Hall versus Pacheco? Yeah, so I mean, we were looking at this. One of the other ones that I really like is Elijah Moore plus 35 receiving yards versus Sky Moore. I mean, right now, a lot of people are expecting Elijah Moore to have a better season straight up than Sky Moore. If you're getting the additional 35 yards on top of it, I do like that. I mean, even if this bet was like the other way, right? If it wasn't Elijah Moore getting the added on 35 yards, instead if it was Sky Moore, I still probably like the Elijah Moore side. So that's one that I like. Okay. Neil says, bro, do another Best Ball Mania, please. If we hit 350 likes in the live stream, maybe. I can't even commit to it, but maybe. Okay, let's swing this over. And of course, if you want to check out any of those player props, get in a draft with us, Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, as well as my 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. You can find the link in the live chat description, comment section. Okay, so if we're looking at quarterbacks again, I guess Rodgers is kind of in play, right? We took Breece Hall. We know Breece Hall is going to be involved as a pass catcher. So running back, we have Hall, Najee, Swift, Dalvin Cook. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith-Schuster. So this is the team of the Browns and the Tylers. Got 2 Browns and 2 Tylers. Jamal Williams goes 124. Sumo Bro says, is the Piggin video going to have 5 rivals or more than 5? I think it has 5 or 6, but honestly, I may need to record a clip real quick talking about the Kadarius Toney versus T. Higgins line. It's kind of embarrassing that we left that one out with how good it is, so we may have to go ahead and add that in. Okay, so we're going to draft one more running back in this draft. We're probably going to take 3 more tight ends. I mean, we have no tight ends so far. Okay, tight end off the board. We were talking about Rodgers being in play. We have Breece Hall. We can still take Tyler Conklin a little later on. So we'll go ahead and we will take Aaron Rodgers. Now, I know a lot of people are going to scream at us, Mason, they have the same bye week. Mason, they have the same bye. Yes, I'll sacrifice the 15 points in week 7 if it makes a better roster construction overall, if it builds us a unique team that someone may not have in that fantasy football playoff tournament. So do not care about bye weeks on Underdog. Maybe you'll be different. And if it was a private draft where the only thing we had to worry about was cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17, then yeah, I'd probably care about it. But instead of we should be optimizing on the fantasy football playoff tournament in weeks 15, 16, 17, their bye week's not going to be a big deal for me. Garrett says we sniped him on Rodgers. I'm sorry about that, my friend. It looks like you had Garrett Wilson there, so let's move this down. Nico Collins goes. Let's swing this back around. Kincaid's just been falling like a rock. To be fair, he kind of should be, but I'm going to end up with if I keep taking Dalton Kincaid as he falls, I'm going to end up with a lot of Dalton Kincaid. I may need to make a rule for myself of not drafting Dalton Kincaid on teams where I don't have Josh Allen. I may have to do that. Kenny says, 1 year my friend's redraft league, I selected players that all had the same bye week. I mean, I have heard that like strategy before in like a shallow redraft league, right? Where you go through and you take players that exclusively have a week 7 bye. That way you can say, okay, well, I'll sacrifice week 7, but every other week I'll be at 100% while my opponent will be at 90%. And just in general, I don't care about bye weeks. I honestly think a lot of people focus in on bye weeks for this reason and this reason alone. One, because it's super easy to talk about and understand. And 2, when you go to select a player, the one information we know about that player going into the season is the team that they are on and the bye week that they have. It's literally right here on the player card is their bye week. So I think that's the reason that people care about bye weeks a lot. In reality, I don't think they should matter. Of course, I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay. Hayes ID asking how many best ball drafts we are at. I mean, best ball mania drafts we are at in particular. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up, my friend. So, including this one, we will be at 62. Including this one. Okay. Let's move this back around. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, when we take Joe Burrow here, we're looking at both Tyler Boyd as well as Irv Smith Jr. as targets later on. I'm assuming we do have Irv Smith Jr. make into us. Could be wrong, but we'll see. Karasoon says 62 is a good pace. Yeah, so I've made a rule with myself that not really drafting any more best ball mania teams this year outside of on the live stream. Now, I'll be in Underdog drafts all day off the live stream whenever they have like a puppy open or whenever they have the Chihuahua open. If it's like a $4 or $5 draft, I'm literally drafting nonstop. However, like with Best Ball Mania, since they cap it at 150, whenever there's not a puppy, whenever there's not a Chihuahua, then that's when we'll do them, and we'll do them on the live stream. I think it's a decent rule to follow. Okay, so good. That was the team we had to worry about taking Irv Smith Jr. I mean, they had 0 tight ends. This one has Darren Waller in the second-year tight end in Tennessee, so I doubt they take Irv Smith Jr. Hell, they take another tight end. They take Gerald Everett, though. So we're going to take Irv Smith Jr. here to get the double stack there with Joe Burrow. I really like it. So now we have at wide receiver A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith-Schuster. Running back, we have Breece Hall, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook. Quarterback, we have Joe Burrow double stacked with Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith Jr. We have Aaron Rodgers stacked with Breece Hall. And hopefully we'll get Tyler Conklin later on to pair up with Rodgers as well. Okay. So good for us to see quarterbacks go. I'm not going to take another quarterback if I've drafted one in round 5 and round 11. Now, of course, if we see like a quarterback fall 30 picks, 40 picks past ADP, I reserve the right to change my mind. But as it stands right now, we're probably not taking another. Feels like Roshan's been falling just a bit. Raheem Mostert off the board, 159. I'm imagining we get a Roshan selection here. This team only has 3 backs with Dobbins, Madison, and Connor. Okay, Roshan goes. We're going to take Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Zebby says, how do you find players to root for during the season when you're drafting so many teams? So, I mean, in general, right, I'll go through and I'll still make bets on guys. Like, I'm going to draft over 700 teams on Underdog. I drafted over 700 last year. And while that may seem crazy, you'll say, okay, well, you have every single guy. How do you know what you need? A couple different things. One, on Underdog, you can go and look at your exposures. You can see what percentage of what player you've drafted. So generally, I root for the guys that I've drafted the most. So last year, my 3 most drafted players were Josh Jacobs. He was going in round 6, round 7 on Underdog. Patrick Mahomes. He was going round 5 on Underdog. Laughable. And Jalen Waddle, who was going in round 4. And my second most drafted running back was Kenneth Walker. So, I mean, in general, those were the guys that I was saying, okay, yeah, we want to be rooting for these players. We want these players to do well. Guys that I drafted literally 0 of include Courtland Sutton, Michael Pittman Jr., Mike Williams. There was guys I just didn't have at all. So you never want to say that you're rooting against someone, but if they score 0 points, probably helps us out. So, I mean, even if we're not necessarily looking at an individual matchup, we still know the players we want to do well. We still know the guys that we don't want to do well. And also, by the time you get to like the fantasy football playoff tournament, right? Then you're looking at all your teams. Then you're going, okay, I really need this. Like whenever we won the big dog tournament last year, we were rooting for Christian McCaffrey to have a massive week. Like it was coming down to the end of the stretch in week 17, and we had $100,000 up for grabs in that one tournament. And what we needed is a big game from Christian McCaffrey, Devontae Adams to not do much. We had a couple different things we were sweating out, and yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not something I think of. Kenny says, with these Underdog drafts, you don't even care. Just check back in at the end of the season to see if you won. I mean, I'd say, yeah, if you only drafted like 5 teams on Underdog, it's probably the best way to go about it. It's just like not even check in until the end of the year. But whenever I'm drafting like 700 teams, I definitely taking up a bigger piece of the pie in my overall mind. Okay, so can he pick it off the board? So here's the thing, right? Here's the thought process. If I'm looking at this draft board, my favorite guy to draft possibly would be Wan'Dale Robinson. But can I justify reaching 10 picks on a guy that really is about the same as the other wide receivers here? I think just in general, the point I'm saying my favorite guy is Wan'Dale Robinson. And there is the points, they're all about the same. The guys in this range are kind of all the same to me. We're probably going to get a wide receiver fall into us that we're fine with. So if we were to reach on someone, it makes sense for us to reach on the guy that actually is a target based off the roster construction with this team. And that is Tyler Conklin. Eduardo says, Mason, have you seen the running back lines of half a receiving touchdown for some of the running backs? What are your thoughts? In general, guys, Underdog knows what they're doing, right? Like, it's going to be difficult for Underdog to go through and misprice these lines dramatically and then just lose a crap ton of money. I mean, in the end of the day, they're pretty smart and they know what they're doing. So I know a lot of people were like looking at lines that had like, I think Jacobs is one that is that like half a receiving touchdown, saying, oh yeah, Jacobs is easily going to get there. In reality, there's a reason it's priced that way. I don't think Jacobs has ever had a receiving touchdown, right? I don't know. Okay, let's move this over. So obviously, once we take Tyler Conklin there, we are hoping that more tight ends go, which Dawson Knox, Sam Laporta, both off the board. Good for us. And another reason why we kind of have to take Tyler Conklin, as we already said, this is the team of the Browns and the team of the Tylers. We have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and now we have Tyler Conklin, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett. Okay. The attack of the Jack. We'll take John Mechie. We need another wide receiver. He falls 10 picks past ADP. It is what it is. I think you'd make a strong argument, Mason, just take your guy, just take Wan'Dale Robinson. I've seen Wan'Dale Robinson fall into the 17th round in a lot of these drafts. Okay, let's move this over. Bryce Young, 190. Good for us. Just quarterbacks, tight ends. Get off the board. I think we're going to be drafting one more running back and one more wide receiver. One more running back, one more wide receiver. And dear God, I'm tired. I'm about to have to drive 3 hours. And real quick, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream. If somehow you are watching this and not subscribed to the channel, fix your life. Is there anybody else you're seeing on YouTube that every year is starting off fantasy football season and streaming 250 days in a row? We did it last year, doing it again this year. I've not missed a day since April and will not miss a day until the end of the season. Okay, Fournette off the board, 194. Obviously, we can't take Lance here. Even if we want to take Lance, we just kind of can't. Running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. Sumo Bro says, didn't your streak get ended by delay in the flight or something like that? Yeah, I think our streak got ended on like Christmas Day when Southwest had all the canceled flights. I think that's maybe what you're referring to. But Evan coming out says, what do you think of my team at pick 6? Hate it. Okay, let me make my selection here, my friend. Then let's go ahead and let's look at pick 6. In general, I mean, I feel like this year, it's kind of hard to pick in the middle rounds, right? I mean, in like the middle of round 1. Like round 5, 6, 7. Do I really do this? We'll take Jeff Wilson. I've really not drafted any of the Miami Dolphins backs. So let's move this. So wide receiver, I have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS, John Mechie. Let's look at the team at team 6. Okay, so they have CMC fall to them. Completely understand if you want to take CMC there. Olave round 2, DK Metcalf round 3. I think that's kind of best case scenario if you take Christian McCaffrey in round 1 to get those 2 wide receivers there. ETN round 4, freaking love that. Godwin round 5, like that. Sanders round 6, I like this team. I don't get the Tua pick in round 8. We have no Tyreek. We have no Jalen Waddle. So in general, if I'm taking Tua, I'm doing so well past ADP. The other thing, maybe like Zay Flowers makes more sense here at 91. Cortland Sutton, 102. Pretty strong value. Daniel Jones, Jarrett McKinnon, Tank Bigsby, Alec Pierce. Okay, so here's the issue that I have with this team. First one being, if you're going to take Tua, Daniel Jones together this early on, if you're going to take a quarterback in round 8 and round 10, you probably stop at 2 QBs. If you are going to take a third quarterback after taking a quarterback in round 8 as well as round 10, you want that guy to be at the very end of the draft. You're taking CJ Stroud, you're taking Sam Howell, you're taking Trey Lance. You don't necessarily want to go ahead and take, okay, we're going to take Robert Woods to pair up with John Mechie. But you don't necessarily want to go out there and take just a third quarterback pretty soon after. So that would be the only thing I don't like with the team. I like a lot of the other guys he went with. But Cody in here at pick 5. Let's check his team out. So you have Diggs, Smith, Jacobs, Kirk. Personally, I'm not a fan of like Kirk versus McLaurin, Drake London, Hopkins. I go with a different wide receiver here, but that's just me. Aaron Jones, Lawrence, pick 68. The Lawrence selection makes a lot of sense. I probably would have tried to get a little greedy with it and say, okay, well, what happens if we pass on Lawrence here? Does he make it back around to us in round 7, considering the fact that this team has Allen, this team has Fields, this team has Hurts, this team has Mahomes? But of course, I mean, I probably would have ruined the team trying to get greedy. Evan Ingram off the board, 92. The Cousins pick a 116. Were we able to get Osborne? Yeah, we got Osborne at 149. I like the team, my friend. Wan'Dale Robinson, round 16. I like it. Okay. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate y'all. The Sunday live stream should be super late in the day, where this one was super early. But hopefully that means we get to actually have a weekend. And anyway, really appreciate you. And if you have not done so already, drop a like, subscribe. And if you want to get in a draft with us, if you want to check out any of those player props we were looking at, they're both on Underdog Fantasy. Sign up, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus my 2023 fantasy football rankings, a free trial to flockfantasy.com, and have some fun getting some drafts with us. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really appreciate you, and really hope that we get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow night.